what you would want to do just to go into our folder is you would want to find where it says Matt125_Cotner, because that's my class. You can double click that and go into it. The place that you're going to be looking for would be either student work underscore online if you're an online student, or student work underscore on site if you're an on-site student. There's a possibility that there might be other sections in the future, so there might be something like student work underscore online, and it might have a section number, or it might be online 1, online 2, or whatever, depending on how many sections of the class I happen to be teaching that semester. But anyway, what you want to do is you want to look for student work online or student work on site. So if you're an online student, let's just go ahead and go into that. And you're going to see a list of names. You'll notice that the names are last name underscore first name, so that's what you should see. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that I have a folder called your last name, your first name. Now, you're not going to have permission to create new folders at this level of the file system. So when you go into student work online, what you would have to do then is go into your last name, your first name folder. So I'm going to do that. Okay, let's pretend like this is your folder, and this is what you would see. You would see nothing. It should be empty when you first approach it. And so I want to show you how you can do a couple of different things. One is that if you wanted to bookmark this right now, you could go up here and you could say new bookmark. All right, and it's going to ask you if this is what you want, and you'll notice that it actually, when I click on more options, remember earlier I said, hey, we'll talk about this later, you see that what it does is it's bookmarking all the way down to your name, which is kind of cool. So that way, whenever you bookmark it, you can just go and click that bookmark and it'll take you straight to that folder, so you don't have to migrate through all of that other nonsense, right? So anyway, you can go ahead and do that and add that bookmark, and you're good to go once you've done that. And if you want, you can also download or choose your download folder so that anytime it downloads, it'll automatically go there, but you don't have to do that right now. Okay, and then you'll see that it shows you this bookmark that you just created, all right? And you'll notice that your other list disappeared. All you have to do now is double click that, and it will take you right back. You see up here, it tells you what your pathway is. It takes you right back there, okay? And now we want to put some files up there and check stuff out, okay? So I don't have anything made yet. What you can do is you can go in, and if you're in Windows, you can look for Notepad. If you are in a Mac, you can look for a program called TextEdit in your search. And I'm just going to type something, and I'm going to say, this is a test, okay? And I'm just going to save it. And right now, I'm just going to save it as just a plain old text document, okay? If you're on a Mac and you've gone to TextEdit, it's probably going to try to save it as an RTF file. If you want to save it as a simple text document, then on a Mac, what you would need to do is go up into the menu item to edit it so that it is just plain text, okay? And I'm just going to save this to my desktop for right now, okay? And I'm going to type test.txt, save that. I'm going to close it for a second, and then you'll see that I've got that on my desktop. I'm just going to drag it and I'm going to drop it into my my web folder that says my last name, my first name. All right, and then it pops up with this little transfer window, and it tells me that that transfer has been complete, which is great. All right, and now if I go over to my browser window, remember the address was matt.miracosta.edu/Matt125_Cotner, and then as long as you get that part of the pathway, you can just click to where you need to go. So we would go into the online, all right, and then we'll scroll down, find my last name, my first name. You see that I've got that test.txt file, and it shows me the contents of that file, right? Pretty cool. The next thing that I would want to do to show you how you can modify some stuff, right, is let's say that I want to get rid of that. Well, I can right click and delete. There we go. and it's going to ask me if I'm sure, say yes, and now it's gone. So if I were to go back up here to my browser and hit the refresh button, it's going to tell me that it can't find that file, okay? So I can hit my back button, and if I hit this refresh, because this was remembering before, I hit refresh again, it shows me that my directory listing is empty, okay? So that's pretty straightforward. Now let's just do something else really quickly. I want to show you another little trick. Let's open up this test file. If I say file save as, I want to show you a little test, a little trick here. If I call it index, and then I say .html, and I'm not just going to hit enter, I want to say save as type, and I want to say all files, so it doesn't save it as a text file. If I call the file index and I give it a file extension of .html, and I save that, okay, and then I can say this is, let's say, an index file. Okay, let's save it. So I'll do Control S, or you can also go up to your file save. I'm going to close it, and you'll see that on my, let's close this. You'll see that right here on my desktop I've got this index file. If I drag it into CyberDuck again, like this, all right, it says that it was successful. And now while I am in my browser, let me stretch this out a little bit so you can see the pathway a little bit better up here. And in fact, I'll go to the end of the pathway. You see that it just has your last name, your first name, /. There's no file name there. If I hit enter or refresh again, what it does is it automatically loads the page called index.html, even though I didn't type that pathway, to that explicit pathway to that file. Whenever you make a file that's called index.html and you put it in a folder on the web, all you have to do is you have to type its parent folder name, and it automatically knows to find it because it is the index file that will automatically open. It's sort of like having a lobby greeter inside of, you know, Walmart or something, and you walk in the door and they say, "Hi, how can I help you?" You know, and they help you out and they automatically welcome you into the website, right? Or into the store. It's kind of like that. All right. Now I could also go to the end of this and I could type index.html and be explicit, and I still get the same file name. But the thing is that I didn't have to do that. If I wanted to get rid of this up in the pathway and just do that, it still loads the page. Now let's go back over to CyberDuck just really quickly. And if I were to go here, right click it, you don't have to right click it, you can just click it sort of like a long press and change the name, or you can right click and say rename. But we could say index, and then let's do -x, right, or something like that, and I'll say rename. And now if I go up here, let's make sure that we don't have the word index up there. Okay, now if I go, you see it doesn't load that index page anymore because it has to specifically be named index. But I could still load the file, right? And this thing, just by the way, it's called directory listing. Not all servers will have directory listing on. A lot of servers, for security, if you try to go to a folder without knowing the name of the file, if that folder doesn't have a folder in there called index.html, then what happens a lot of times is you're going to get something that says you have forbidden access. And the reason that you get to see this is because I have asked the system administrators to turn directory listing on so that you can easily root around your file system in case you misspell something or whatever. Because if this were not spelled correctly, if I tried to go to index dash, let's say xx dot HTML, it would tell me that the file is not found. Oh, so if I were to go back here and just get rid of that extra X, then it does find the file. So you can see that you have to know exactly the name of your file, okay? Okay, so something else that I want to show you that is extremely helpful is, let's say that we wanted to modify, let's leave this transfer windows open this time. Let's say we want to modify this index page. Now that I've saved it as an HTML file, one of the things you're going to notice is that if you try to just open it, it opens it in a browser window because there are these things called Mime types in your computer, and the Mime type is associated with a specific file extension. Well, almost every computer is going to have the MIME type associated with an HTML file extension so that it will use a browser to open it, whatever the default browser is. So if you wanted to edit that file, you could right click and you can say open with, and in this case you could go and choose another app, right? And let me tell you, first of all, we are not going to always use Notepad or TextEdit. This is just a really quick test. All right, we're going to be later using brackets, but for now I'm just going to choose Notepad to open that file, and now I can actually edit it and not just look at it in a browser. So let's just say instead of this is an index, that's wrong. We could just correct that. We could also just say something like updated. Okay, and then if I go here to File, Save, I'm just going to minimize it for right now. What I could do, instead of having to drag it back over here, I can also go to my transfer window, and where it says upload complete, I can double click it and it'll upload it again and it will overwrite it, which is terrific. All right, and so now if I wanted to come over here and I want to look inside my folder, you can see that it says this is an index file updated. Okay, and it went ahead and it updated, and if I wanted to make another change to it, updated, and let's do ×2, right, or something like that, right? And I want to save the file. I'm going to minimize it again, and I go over here and I double click where it says upload complete. Now it's going to ask me, do you want to overwrite what's already there? You say continue, and now if I come over here and if I just look at it, it's not changed. I have to actually hit refresh. This is really, really important. If you don't remember to hit refresh, then it's not going to show the updates. All right, and you can see that it updated it for me. So this is really handy, this little transfer window. If you close it, the next time you transfer something like this, it's going to pop back up again, which is really, really helpful. Okay, so this is especially helpful when, let's say, you're uploading an entire folder and you don't want to have to keep dragging and dropping, especially if you have a lot of windows open and stuff. Okay. Now there's something else too that I want to show you. If you go up here to view, you can say toggle log drawer. And the thing that's nice about the log drawer is if you're having problems and you're not sure what's going on, the log drawer will tell you all of the commands that are running in the background so that you can email that to me and I can send it to a system administrator, or I can possibly even just help you directly. So if I were to right click this index file and go down here to delete it, you see that what it did was it gave me some commands as it did that transaction. And by the way, if it seems like something isn't updating, like you feel like then the next thing that I wanted to also show you is, let's get rid of this index file. We do not want that, right? So let's just get that. That was just for test purposes. So let's just get that out of there by deleting it, showing up and stuff. And really basic, to disconnect, click on disconnect. Now you're disconnected. If you want to toggle your bookmarks, you can find your shortcut so that you could always reconnect again. All right, that's the end of this demo. And now you can